Okay, people are coming in. Hello to those joining the webinar. We'll just let people trickle in as we go. So we'll start properly in a second. I can see we've got a few people joining, so welcome. I'll introduce. Here we go. People as they we start the webinar. Introduce the students we've got on call. Yeah, we'll make a start. We're on. I think that has stabilised. I think people have stopped trickling in. Okay, so we're 3 minutes past. Let's make a start. People may come in as we go. So welcome to all everyone who's come along. This is a session where you, as webinar attendees, can ask questions of our students, and I am joined by a very nice arrangement of students to come and answer your questions. They're all very friendly. I can attest to that. There is, we say this a lot at undergraduate level, there is no such thing as a stupid question. Now is the chance to ask a stupid question. I can guarantee it will have absolutely no bearing on your application. And in addition, if you find at the bottom of your screen, if you're on a mobile, it may be under more or something, there's a Q&A option. And you should have the option to ask things anonymously. So if you want to ask what you think might be a stupid question, as I say, there's no such thing. But if you think you wanted to ask a stupid question, or what you think might be a stupid question, but don't want to attach your name to it, then feel free to do that. And then I will put those questions to the students who we have here, and they will give their views on the things you ask. And I do have a few questions to start us off that people have asked in the past to start from, but it'd be really nice if you can ask your own questions about things that crop up, or follow-on questions if there's something you want a bit more information on. So to introductions, so my name is Chris North. I'm the Director of Recruitment and Admissions here in the School of Physics and Astronomy, but I'm not actually the most important people here. As I said, this is for you to speak to the students. So I am just the messenger in this process. So we're going to go round, and I will ask the students to introduce. It's in seemingly random order by whichever order you're on in my screen, which may be different for other people. So you'll get to see them as they pop up. So first of all, let's go to Lucy. I'll tell me your first name. So tell us who you are and what you're doing and where you are and so on.
So hi, I'm Lucy. I'm in my 4th year of an integrated master's doing physics with astronomy. I'm currently back in Cardiff. I'm originally from the Oxfordshire-Warwickshire border by a tree in the middle of nowhere. And yeah, that's me.
Excellent. Someone from a tree. Great. Rob.
Hello, I'm Rob. I'm doing my 4th year of an MPhys in just straight physics. Currently back in Cardiff, and I come from Worcester.
Excellent. Seems the students have already started turning up ready for the new term, which is great. Quinn.
Hi, I'm Quinn. I'm in my 3rd year of a 4-year integrated master's in physics and astronomy. I'm from Yorkshire, but I'm currently based in Cardiff.
Great. Bonnie. Oh, you're muted.
I tried my best. Hey everyone, I'm Bonnie. I'm just entering my 3rd year of an integrated master's degree of physics and astronomy. I'm currently in Cardiff and I come from Dudley.
Thank you. Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex and I do physics with astronomy. I'm in my 2nd year and I'm from Redditch and still living there for another week.
Great. So yeah, induction starts and enrollment starts in a week's time. Yes, a week's time. So students will be trickling back here then. Sam.
Hi everyone, I'm Sam. I'm on the master's course, the integrated master's course, physics with astronomy, and I'm from Somerset and I'm living in Cardiff and I'm in my 4th year.
Great. And Martina, you have returned.
Hiya, yeah, I'm Martina and I've actually recently graduated. So I did straight physics, the integrated masters MPhys, and graduated with a 1st. So I'm back now for the open day.
congratulations. So yes, Martina has left us, but has returned, which I'm very grateful for. So has a different view on some of the things, perhaps having gone through the entire system, whereas everyone else is only part way through. Okay, so as I said, if you want to ask questions, use the Q&A button. You may also have a chat option where you can ask panelists questions as well, but the Q&A option is the easiest way to go forward. I think we'll start a question that students often wonder is, certainly when they're applying, is about kind of their favorite area of physics. So sometimes students will wonder about, do they need to put on their application form, I've got a favorite area of physics and I'm really into this? And my answer would be, no, you don't have to have a favorite area. But I do wonder from the students here, I'll ask this question, then we have actually had a question coming. So brief answer from people. From students here, did you have a favorite area of physics? And has that changed? And what's your current favorite area of physics now? Anyone particularly want to take up that mantle? Rob, do you want to?
So I had no idea what my favorite area was really coming in. And even through first and second year, I still didn't really know. It was more just a case of finding areas I wasn't as interested in, kind of crossing them off. And I actually just ended up kind of more and more in medical physics, which we didn't really do in school. So actually I didn't even know it existed. But that's now my kind of favorite area, as it were, is looking into the MRIs, that brain imaging, that sort of stuff.
Great stuff. Quinn, I think you waved your hand as then. Want to add something?
Yeah, I was always really into astrophysics. And then coming to uni, it's been re-solidified, and I'm still ridiculously obsessed with space.
Excellent. Always nice to be really obsessed with space. That was my background as well. So I'm not unbiased at all, clearly. Okay, so we do have some questions that have come in. So the first one we'll do, and people have different thoughts on this depending on what years they're in. So the first question is this question is about the first year. So how many labs do you get in a week in the first year? So does anyone want to take on the labs question? Talk about Quinn. Yeah, do you want to come in on that?
Yeah, first year you have first semester you have one afternoon a week of labs, which is a 3 or 4 hour session where you complete an experiment and complete the write-up. And then second semester you have that again, but you also have another afternoon which is computer science lab. So that's when you're doing coding, but that's also technically a lab.
And I think a follow-up that I'd add to that is, how did anyone find the labs in the first year particularly differed from those at school? I know you're all kind of third, fourth year, so it might be a bit having to rejiggle the memory a little bit. How did anyone find the difference from school to university? Martina, do you want to?
Yeah, sure. So, I've left, so it's been a while now, but as far as I remember, in school, we did a lot of looking at the teacher doing the experiments. We definitely did some hands-on, but I feel like in labs, it's definitely far more student-focused and you're far more independent. So you sort of do your own thing. You have to keep your own lab diary, which is something that wasn't as enforced in school. And you do a lot of your own thinking, a lot more of your own thinking, I think, than in school, as far as I remember.
Would everyone else agree with that? I think I've got nods from everyone. I think that's good, and that changes throughout the semester. So in terms of the second year, so Sam, you were straight physics, was that right, or were you physics and astronomy?
Physics with astronomy.
Well, physics with astronomy. So Rob, you were straight physics, I think. How did you find the change in the second year?
So in the second year, was in your first year, you're doing, a session each week, it's a new experiment, looking at a new thing. I think the biggest change is that second year, you're suddenly given a fortnight per experiment. So there's a whole lot more time dedicated to, going into much more depth about what it is, what you want to get out of it, your own personal spin on things. Whereas that first year is a lot of you getting used to the equipment, getting used to how to write a lab diary. So it's just kind of, the next logical step up in that second year.
And then for those in the astrophysics or the physics of astronomy course, there's the observational techniques, the obs tech module. And Bonnie, you must have just finished that, I guess. Do you want to say anything about how you found the obs tech module?
Yeah, sure. I absolutely loved the obs tech module. Like, we took it in second year. Like, it was joint for like the whole 2 years. And instead of like doing the more physical kind of experiments, you have to it's all about utilizing some of the techniques that like professional astrophysicists use in order to put together their hypotheses and write reports. And you, at some point, you actually get to plan your own report. You get to run your own thing, I think, and you can utilize a remote telescope called Les Combres Observatory, and you can kind of take your own observations. And I just found it so cool, like seeing my own projects come to fruition. And like by the end of it, I ended up with this really cool galaxy image that I made to report on, and it was really fun. I really enjoyed it.
So it's certainly an evolution over the degree, which builds up to the stuff later on. Okay, so another question that's come in is how is the course graded? So how is it marked? Now, I know the technical answer to that in terms of how many marks there are assigned to the different things, but I think the interesting thing is going to be, how did you find it as students in terms of how did you find you were working for things? So anyone want to take that kind of the breakdown of how marks were done? Who haven't we heard from much? Sam, do you want to come in on that?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of modules are quite the same, where they're split into coursework and exams, and they're weighted differently. A lot of 20% coursework, 80% exams, or 60-40. I guess my advice is, if you put a lot of effort into the coursework, it takes the pressure off the exam. Even if the coursework's worth less, if say you work really hard and get 80, 90 on the coursework, then that does take the pressure off the exam. So I guess that's my bit of advice for a lot of the taught module, the lecture-based modules. The lab modules are obviously marked a bit differently. Like weekly labs, you're marked. But I can't exactly remember how that's done first year. But yeah, the modules that are all course on an exam, if you put the effort into the coursework, you can definitely make your life easier that way.
So it's that balance between the coursework, which is called continuous assessment here, and the exams. Lucy, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I'd say as well, like it's quite a big difference from school, where like if you're getting like A's, A stars, you're doing like 80%, 90% is like kind of like what you're getting, whereas you come to uni and like a first is 70%. So don't put too much pressure on yourself to like get those really high kind of percentages, because it's supposed to be challenging. Like I definitely came and like expected it to be like high grades, and then it was like, oh, it's not, but actually you're still doing really well. So it's like not putting that pressure on yourself.
And I mean, Alex, we haven't heard from you. How did you find that transition from school to university in terms of the way you had to work as well as the way it was marked and graded?
Initially, it was a bit of a hard transition, because obviously a large portion of each module is based on coursework, which I hadn't actually done before because of my GCSEs and A-levels. But eventually you do get used to it, and you realise, if I'm able to do well in the coursework, I can go into the exam with a strong enough mark, and then it takes a bit of pressure off the exam, which really helps, especially with the harder modules.
So I can give the official answer, I guess, that from my point of view, is that so as everyone has said, that there is that coursework element. The coursework is designed to help you understand the material as well. So it should help you with, if you do well in the coursework, as well as getting you marks, that also will help prepare you for the exam. That's obviously the idea for a lot of these. But there are modules that are not examined at all. So the computing modules, the labs, of course, there's not an exam for those. Things like the science communication module in the third year is not examined. And some of our sort of more group work based modules are fully coursework. So it depends. How much of your mark is continuous assessment depends slightly on exactly which choice of modules you pick, which depends slightly on exactly which degree scheme you're going on. But I would say it is approximately 50%, half exam versus coursework in terms of the marks that you end up with at the end of your degree. There's a large uncertainty on that because it depends on the module. So 50 plus or minus 20 or something. So there is a large range, and some students do prefer the examined modules, and some students do prefer the coursework modules. That does come into some students' choices. I think in the first year, there are the modules are all 60%. Well, the normal modules are 60% coursework, 40% exam. No, I think it's the other way around. Sorry, 60% exam, 40% coursework. Apart from things like lab and computing, which are 100% coursework. Coursework based.
Chris, I'd just like to add on there, sorry. You said about choosing modules based on the weighting and how it's assessed. I would definitely admit that in the second semester of third year, I chose a course, one of the modules, commercializing innovation. And part of my reasoning was it had no exam. And I was like, oh, 100% coursework. That certainly fits me, I think, or just taking the pressure off exam season, just having one less exam, I found that appealing. So, yeah, that played a part in my decision making there.
Yeah, Rob, did you unmute then? Did you have a?
I was going to say yes, same, exactly same.
Yeah, so it does play a factor. Okay, we've got a few on modules. We had one come in. So it was directed at me, but I will give an answer, but I will redirect it to the students to get their thoughts as well. So this is someone who's not doing A-level physics, is doing the access courses, and wants to know how in the next summer, I guess, summer 2022, to best prepare for the degree. So what I will put in the chat is a link to a resources page, which has got some resources that we compile. They're not all ones we made, but they're for schools. And there is a preset near the top for what we call degree prep. So just some of those are just videos to watch. Some of those are example textbooks to go through, and so on. So have a look through that kind of that kind of thing, and see if there's anything there that appeals. Just have a look through that. And if you're there are some example textbooks and so on to go through, but you might want to get hold of an A-level physics textbook and see if you get some of the material. You won't be able to do lots of it because you won't have done the course, or you won't have done all of it because you've done the access, not the physics course. There'll be different content. So don't worry if there's things that you look at it and say, I've never done that. And the same will be true of physics coming through A-level, because physics A-level comes in different modules. And so students will do different optional modules at the end. So it might be one on relativity, or it might be one on medical physics, or physics in sport, or whatever. So students do come in with different bits of physics and science. And again, some students come with chemistry and biology A-levels. Others don't. They come with history or further maths or computing or whatever is their kind of third A-level. And again, we don't mind what those are. It's nice to have students with a range of choices there, range of modules. Okay, so according to you, asked this person, and I will definitely. So I was going to direct that last question to the students, and I completely forgot. Anyone got any top tips for things? Did anyone do anything, if you can remember back this far? Anyone do anything before you arrived at university which prepared you for study here? Do you think? Quinn and Lucy are both tentatively raised hands. Quinn, do you want to chip in there?
Well, okay. I know that this student is also doing an A-level in maths. And my advice is over summer, don't drop your maths, like keep going through some of it, because physics was my weakest A-level. But I've still found first year very easy to cope, because so much of it is based in maths that if you're strong enough at maths, it's easy enough to like push that into physics. Whereas if you go the whole summer and just don't do anything, your brain kind of forgets. So it's difficult to start. And if you don't have that background in physics, you can't really afford a couple of weeks to get caught back up. But yeah, just the maths is super important in first year. So maths and like prep. So just make sure you have everything, like note cards or whatever it is that you do, to what you did to revise for your A-levels or your exams. Have the ability to make those at uni and start making them right at the start of the year. So you don't have to spend winter holiday making a billion flashcards.
Yes, a teacher or a lecturer's comment would be revision starts after week 1 and you should start preparing for revision. I know that's not always the way it quite works. I don't think I did that when I was an undergraduate. Lucy, did you want to add anything to that?
I was just actually going to say a similar thing to Quinn, that maths, if I could go back and do it again, I'd make sure my maths was like on point pretty much, because that helps so much. It's like the cornerstone of the rest of your degree.
One of the things actually we've just done this last couple of weeks for our incoming students is offer some pre-enrollment math sessions. So they are going through worksheets that should be stuff that they've done at A-level maths, but just to recap stuff, because as both Quinn and Lucy have just said, using that maths and not forgetting that maths, stretching those brain muscles to get used to doing maths again is something that's really, really useful, and will help that first week back as the gears grind to get you back into doing and to think with that bit in your brain again, which if you haven't done anything, you haven't done for at least 3 months. Okay, Martina, do you want to?
Yeah, just one quick point, because I completely agree with that. But I actually feel that I found the maths quite easy. I'm just like one of those people that gets maths. So like if for those students where your maths is quite like, you're more confident in maths maybe than the physics part, I feel like it's quite important to also focus on looking at physics, mathematical problems and trying to interpret them physically, because that's something that I personally struggle with perhaps a little more, like actually connecting the maths to the real world. So just a little side point to that. Yeah,
and that's where I think at A-level, the only time that you really do that, I guess, to any significant degree is the mechanics. And what you'll do at university is do that across the board, across the physics. But yeah, Martin, that's a very good point. Okay, this might be a quick answer, a quick fire answer from everyone. I'd like to get an answer from everyone if we can. You're all in different years, and according to you, what has been your favourite module at Cardiff? So you may all want to think a little bit about that. So it can be from any year, it can be from any physics or astrophysics. You may have all sorts of, but it'd be nice to know why. What made it good? And I suspect the reasons why people enjoy modules are many and varied. And if you want to pick an off-the-wall answer for why it was your favourite, then please feel free. Does anyone have a favourite that springs to mind? Okay, we've got a few. Rob, we haven't. Yeah, do you want to say what yours was?
So mine, I think, was in second year, electricity in the human body. It was just a really well-rounded module. We did, it was 50% exam, 50% coursework. We did a whole load of biology and chemistry as well, look at how electricity interacts with your cells and such like. And then, yeah, that 50% coursework was, we built an ECG machine, which is really fun because, it's a load of time in the lab. It's all this stuff you haven't really done, don't really know much about, putting electrical parts together and stuff. It's not really my expertise. So it's a really good kind of way of introducing it while still being firmly cemented in theory that I knew about.
Excellent. I have seen the students making those ECGs and checking each other are alive. It's always good. Alex.
I'd probably say the introduction to astrophysics, because whilst, yeah, it's very, very difficult, it's very interesting because you start off with things you'd recognise from A level, like orbits and stuff, but you go all the way up to like the basics of general relativity and all the in-between, like neutron stars and other galaxies and formation of stars and anything like that. And obviously, it's space, which is a part of physics everyone loves. So
it's certainly a popular part, and there's some big questions there. Excellent. That's nice to hear. Who else? Bonnie, do you have a favourite module?
Oh, that was a tough one. I was stuck between like 2 or 3 of them. But I'd say probably observational techniques in astronomy was my favourite. I mean, I've already talked about this, but it was because it was, I don't know, I felt like a professional, like just coming up with this different like reports and getting to choose what to like look into based on my own interests. And plus I was working at home at the time, and it was just, I don't know, I felt kind of smug when my family walked in and they just saw me like analysing this image on the computer. It's like, yeah, I'm doing astrophysics. Look at me go.
Excellent.
But yeah, and coding as well. Coding was one of my favourites as well in the first year one, just because it was something I'd never done before. You know, just writing all these different programs. Like, I didn't know a single thing about computers other than turn it off and on again usually works. And like by the end of it, I was writing programs, and it was really fun.
Excellent. Sam.
I'm also really, really torn because I've enjoyed a number of modules for a number of reasons. If I had to say one, I'd probably say cosmology in 3rd year, because it talks about spacey stuff, but on a really big scale. And it's just one that really gets you thinking, which I just really enjoyed. But I'm also a computer nerd, so I've loved all of the computing, programming ones. I've just enjoyed all of those. Just love programming, really. So those have all been my favourites.
I think that Mattia Negretto is quite a popular lecturer for the cosmology course as well. So I think that always goes down well because the good job he does there. Who haven't we heard? Lucy.
So my favourite was Fields and Flows, which is a core module in 2nd year. And I just loved it was challenging, but also at the same time, once you got it, it just like clicked and it was logical and just really satisfying to like understand it.
It's interesting because that's one of the hardcore modules. Some people think that you get back from the summer and then suddenly you're having to throw yourself into some maths that, you know, the advanced maths that you do at the end of the 1st year and really apply that to stuff. So I know some students relish that opportunity to test those things. So good stuff. Quinn?
Yeah, so my favourite modules have been OBSTAC, but we've talked about OBSTAC, but also quantum mechanics, because compared to quantum mechanics is the other core module you do at the same time as field and flows. And I really appreciate it. Like, you kind of just have to accept it's true. And I liked that challenge because that's really difficult for a lot of physicists to just be like, yes, this is true. We don't know why, but it's true. And I like that challenge. And then once you've accepted that, the world of possibilities that come from quantum mechanics, I just found it really interesting and really weird at the same time.
Interesting and weird. I think that sums up quantum mechanics quite nicely, actually. Martina, what's your recollection of your 4 years?
Oh, yeah, that's, again, really difficult. But I also loved Fields and Flows, like Lucy, and all of the quantum modules I've done. Quantum mechanics is probably my favourite subject in physics overall. But actually, I was going to say that a surprising favourite for me, one of the many favourites, was statistical physics in 3rd year. And I say that because I used to hate stats at like A-level and GCSE, like the actual maths of it. But with the statistical physics, we're looking at physics specifically, which is what made it so interesting for me, especially like near the end, we derived the black body, like, you know, the graph basically, and that whole equation. That was just like every lecture we'd like derive some quite fundamental thing in physics, and that's what I think made it one of my favorites and quite surprising for me as well.
Excellent. So I think a really broad range of modules there. And actually, the thing you were just saying there, Martina, reminds me that we asked our incoming students the last couple of weeks when we started these sort of optional pre-enrollment math sessions, which bits of maths were they comfortable with? And the bits of maths they were comfortable with, things that the basic calculus, so differentiation, integration, basic trigonometry, and so on, a little bit of basic mechanics. And the things they were less comfortable with generally were things like the statistics and so on, because not everyone does that at A level to a great degree. And I wonder what anyone could say about that when you start first year. Yes, you need the core. We were talking a little while ago about prep for degree. That core maths, remembering what differentiation is, remembering what integration is, remembering which way around sine and cos go, and so on, as I get worryingly blank faces from some people. So remembering which way around sine and cos are, and but the other stuff is captured. Or did you find that it was captured from the first year, sort of from the ground up, in terms of the maths? I've got a few nods. Anyone want to add to that at all, Quinn?
Okay, so I did A-level further maths as well, but the maths lectures you get at first year, even the basic calculus, it's done, the very basic stuff is done quickly, but it is still covered. So you can go with very, very little maths knowledge, and it's built from the ground up, which is always helpful, especially if with the slightly more challenging stuff that you do at A-level, a physicist's point of view is very difficult than my maths teacher's point of view was. And it found the teaching was a lot easier to understand, I found, at uni than it was back at school, because it was a different viewpoint to approach it. And so even if you're not getting something in your classes at the moment, when you get to uni, the different viewpoint and the fact that you're surrounded by the students will help so much, and is from the ground up. Like, the basics are always covered first, and then it's expanded on. You're not expected to know anything except SOHCAHTOA. But SOHCAHTOA is GCSE stuff. And if in doubt, just remember SOHCAHTOA. That's what I do.
Silly old Harry carried a horse through our attic. That's what I was taught at GCSE. Mr. McCarran. There we go. I still remember it a scary number of years later. Okay, so we've done favourite module and basic math. There we go. Next session we had in was student projects. Are they done in groups or individually? And I guess the lazy answer is yes, because there's a mixture of both. So there's two ways to pick on this. One is those research projects that you do in third and fourth year. And I might actually in a second come to Martina on that, because you've completed both third and fourth year. The other is those group work, which takes place in several modules. And Sam, you were talking about commercializing innovation, as that has group projects in it as well, doesn't it? Let's come to Martina first. How did the project in the third year work? It will be slightly different for different students depending on what project it is and who their supervisor is and so on. How did that work for you in terms of working individually and so on?
Yeah, so I in my third year I did a computational project. So I did that basically, individually completely. So I was the only student doing it, but obviously you have a personal supervisor who kind of guides you through it. And my supervisor was Sam Laddak, and he's fantastic at sort of leading me in the right direction. So I found it quite challenging because it's quite different to, for example, labs, where really you're kind of in the module you're given what you're trying to find and much more help in there. Whereas here you go into quite an open-ended project, but it's a fun sort of challenge, and because you have a supervisor, it's very, very helpful. And my advice to that would be use your supervisor as help. Don't be afraid to ask questions and tell them if you're struggling.
Yes, we are here to help. So that is, and so that was your third year project. What was your fourth year?
So in my fourth year, again, that one was more theoretical, so I wasn't doing as much sort of simulation work, but I was doing a lot more maths. I'm a bit of a theoretician. But that one I did, in the second half of it, I did more individually, but actually in the first half, there were two of us, and we were doing our own thing. But because we were doing very similar things at the beginning, because we needed like similar foundations, I actually found that quite helpful when there was another student doing a similar thing, because we did a lot of kind of discussing and talking, and then when we had to do presentations at the end, we presented to each other and we sort of had an idea of what both of us were doing, which was quite helpful. But in terms of difficulty or like how different it was, I would say it's quite similar in like the flavor of it is similar to the third year project.
Yeah, and before we come on to the group ones, was anyone doing a third year, for those of you who've done third year, was anyone doing a third year project where there was someone else doing the same kind of project, but working alongside? So Sam and Rob, I know you were doing an experimental project. You want to?
Yeah, so there were two of us doing basically the same project, and it was a bit of an odd situation in that all the setting up and stuff originally was a PhD project. So some of the experimental work was beyond us, but a lot of the other stuff we could still do. And so, we'd message back and forth. We didn't work exactly together. We still did our own, taking our own data each time, calibrating it all, one person at a time. But it meant that you had someone else to compare to. You've done some data analysis. You can go, well, does this make sense to you? Have you got kind of similar numbers, or you might be stuck on one bit of coding and you go, actually, how do I fit this? And, so it's just another person alongside your supervisor you can kind of go to. And especially if your question, you're like, I don't really want to ask this to the supervisor, another person you can ask.
I'll unmute. It also means, I guess, that you can go with collective power, because you can go, none of us understand this, which can sometimes help. That's a good tip for lectures, actually, in general. If you identify there are other people who have exactly the same question as you, even if you initially thought it was a silly question, there almost certainly is someone with the same unknown question. But also, if you can find a few of us, if you want to go up and say, some of us don't understand this bit, rather than I don't understand this bit, that can be quite a useful thing, because it sort of depersonalizes it. It doesn't put yourself quite up, you're not sticking your head quite as far above the parapet that some people worry about. Okay, sticking with projects, Sam, you mentioned commercializing innovation as a third year project, which is group work. Do you want to say anything about how the group projects worked for that?
Yeah, commercializing innovation group project. So there were 5 of us in the team, and we all commercializing innovation was quite different, and it was a module at first that I didn't have any interest in, but I sort of had a thought about it and had to think about it, and thought I'd do something quite different to what is a sort of a usual module. But yes, it's a course one. It's a group module, and it's more of a business kind of focused module. So you come up with a business idea that's sort of techie or related to physics, and you work in a team and sort of develop a business plan and develop this idea. So it's really quite different and almost not physics related at all. It sort of branches off a bit, but I found that really interesting and refreshing. And working in a group is it's not for everyone. Some people like it. Some people like to sort of work just on their own. Some people like working as a group, and I find it nice to have a balance. So one overarching thing I will say is, if you don't like group work, then you can often opt out of the modules that are more group focused. You don't have 100% choice, but you do have a lot of choice as to whether you end up working in team or a lot, or whether you work on your own quite a lot.
Yeah, I think as you say, you can opt out of some modules, but there's some that you can't because they're compulsory. So Quinn, I mean the synoptic modules in the second year, I'm going to hazard a guess that might be what you are thinking of. What do you want to say about group work there?
I was going to say, with some people prefer working by yourself and compared to in teams. With a lot of the group work, you can actually choose your team. And with the synoptic, especially, my friends and I, all of us were like, we prefer working by ourselves than in a team, but we'll work with each other because we're friends. But in synoptic or in certain group work, you can split it down. So you are pretty much working by yourself, but you're just doing part of a large project. So that you still have to do that communication. You still have to make sure that everybody's doing what they need to, but you don't have to actually work on one little bit with other people if you don't like doing that, if you really can't. But that is something that you have to discuss in your teams and make sure everything's okay. But don't be scared if you hate teamwork and you can't do it, because that's an option. And also, teamwork in school is completely different to teamwork in a physics degree, because you don't have the designated person doing it, since you're physics students. So we're probably pushed to being the ones that did all of the work and carried the team. That's not something that happens in physics, because you're all the same level, you're all doing exactly the same, you all have the same general knowledge. So it's a lot easier to work as a coherent team in physics than it is at school.
Excellent, thank you. Yes, and that as you say, it's an important skill to develop, because whatever you do in the future, and that might be something that you teamwork is very likely to be something you have to do at whatever level. You're probably going to work with other people and have to delegate tasks and so on to whoever it is. Okay, we've got a bunch of questions in about why people chose Cardiff, but one that kind of relates to some of that, actually, that I think we'll get to just first is someone saying they're not good at writing and dislike it. Would this be a problem and hold me back? And how much essay writing is in the degree? So is there anyone who came in going, yeah, Lucy's got her hand straight up there. And actually, I saw several people put their hands up. Lucy, do you want to say something about not liking writing and how that has changed?
Yeah, so I'm dyslexic, which means that I cannot write at all. I'm awful at it. I hate it. It was not something I was looking forward to. That was one of the things with the projects and knowing you had to write a report, I was genuinely dreading. And that you get so much help. You're taught how to write a lab report, which feeds into all that project, which is that big piece of writing you have to do. And if you're stuck, you can get advice. And apart from lab reports and the project report, that's pretty much all the writing you have to do. All the rest of it is numbers. So it's really not something you should worry about. And there's so much help for if you're stuck, you can just go ask your lecturers, ask for as much help. They're always so willing to be help you and whatever. And I'm actually really looking forward to my fourth year project now. I'm no longer scared about having to write a project report.
That is great to hear. Quinn, do you want to come in on that as well?
Yeah, I will say, as someone who also sucks at writing essays because they can't be coherent for a long time, reports and essays aren't the same thing. And with your report, if you can write, I know it sounds like a lot, but 300 to 500 words in a semi-coherent thing, you will be fine, because reports are just lots of little sections that may be connected, but you don't have to do all of the fancy connections they teach you in English. And it's very sectioned, and by halfway through first semester of first year for your lab reports, I kind of had made a template in my head of what you had to write, and you could just rewrite that and just put the keywords in. There aren't essays per such, unless you're taking one of the essay modules. and reports aren't scary. It's just a couple of paragraphs and then you move on to the next bit, and you can make the same template again and again and again.
To sort of compartmentalize it a little bit as well. Martin, was that a hand half raise? Yeah, do you want to...
Yeah, just briefly to add to that, definitely reports aren't the same thing as essays, so that is very helpful. But to add to that, I did maybe 2 modules for my degree where I did have to write an essay as a controlled assignment. And actually, I found that the thing that I hated in school was writing for subjects that aren't physics. So when I was writing for physics, I was actually so interested in what I was writing about, because it's just, I felt like I was writing like a paper to be published, which made me feel like important. And I feel like that's just really helpful. So if you hate writing now, maybe that doesn't necessarily mean you'll hate it at uni.
We've got a couple of yeah. Thank you for that. I think that's great to cover. And yeah, the essay is not the same as report is a very important point. Okay, we've got a couple of questions. We've got 10 minutes left or thereabouts. So we've got a question come in, which is it's several questions, which are basically all on the same line as it's what is life like for students in Cardiff, and could you compare it to other universities? So you may have friends at other universities. Obviously, you've only been, I think most of you have only been to one university. But how have you compared it to other universities? And are there any comparisons you can make, or do you think actually in terms of the course things are broadly similar across the different institutions? If you've got friends who've done physics degrees, does anyone have anything to add to the? Sam, do you want to come in on that?
Sure, yeah. It's definitely the question that's on the mind of everyone when they go to different open days and that, like, why should I choose here over here? I like them both. I will say, when you go to different open days and visit different places, look at the city itself, not just the physics buildings and the physics people, because from what I've spoken to different people, friends at different universities and that, they've all had a good time, but it's definitely based on the city and what there is there as well as physics. So, I really like Cardiff and I really love living in Cardiff. And part of that is it's big, but not too big. So it's big enough to have lots going on. So there's, it's got a great nightlife and there's always gigs and, whatever you're interested in outside of academia, there's lots going on, but also it's not overwhelming. I never even bothered visiting London for unis because I knew that would just be too much for me. Just didn't think that would suit me at all. But Cardiff was kind of the right size. And then obviously on top of that, I really enjoyed the physics building and the lecturers and all that was offered here. So yeah, definitely that's, I really love living in Cardiff. So I guess, yeah, that's that.
And anyone else got any reasons why they chose Cardiff over other places, or aspects that factored in their decision, that people looking at university, if you can cast your mind back a few years to when you were looking at universities, what considerations maybe anyone had around that? Anyone remember any?
Sorry,
Bonnie, go first, and we'll come to Martina.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt anyone. I just want to say, when I was looking around, going to different open days for universities, I don't know, at the time I wasn't really that confident in myself. Like, I was thinking to myself that, oh gosh, I kind of believe that people who went into physics are like these massive Einsteins who would like know everything about quantum mechanics already. And when I went to Cardiff, what I fell in love with was just like the amount of support and stuff like that was available. Like when I went to the open day, I think this is the only open day I actually went to where I found myself not feeling intimidated. Like I felt like what shone through more than anything else was the passion and the love that people have here for physics and like how much they enjoy their research. I think that's what sold Cardiff for me in like comparison to some of the other universities where like I mean, one of them kept me in a class for like 2 hours and just went on this massive lecture about some year 4 quantum mechanical stuff that I'd have no hope of understanding. But here it felt a lot more open. It felt like, you know, you don't have to know absolutely everything in order to do well. You just have to have that passion for the subject, which is what I really like about the place.
Always nice to hear. Martina.
Yeah, sorry, I just thought no one was lifting their hand up, so I just went for it. Yeah, I was going to say pretty much exactly the same thing. So everyone just seemed much more open and just so friendly. Other universities can feel a bit like, this is science, serious things. Let's do very difficult things now. And everyone was very serious about it. Whereas here, like, people would make jokes and just a much more relaxed atmosphere, which I think is just really useful for learning.
Don't ask me to tell a joke. Rob.
Yeah, I was going to say, just kind of going back to more outside of physics. For me personally, one of the really big things was the music stuff you can get involved in. So if you're not aware, we have the Royal Welsh College of Music really close to us, which means there's a lot of ties between that and the music building. So if you do play an instrument or involved in that in any sort of way, you can get really good links with both meeting people from those two places and also getting involved with the bands. They end up being very high quality. There's always a lot of music stuff going on, which is definitely, if you're into it at all, can be a really big pull.
Good stuff. Okay, so that's something on how the different universities compare. The next question is, sorry, excuse me a second. The next question we've got is about free time to attend other things outside of uni. So as people have just said, the city is very important, and life outside the course. So how much time is there to attend other things, and what kind of things have people got up to? I can see a few people. Lucy, do you want to chip in?
There's way more free time than you think there is, first of all. This year, for instance, I'm going into my final year, and I think I may have finally taken on a little bit too much, but it's fine. But like, there's so many societies you can get involved with. Like Rob was saying, there's like a load of music societies, there's loads of sports societies, if that's your thing. Like, if you're not into music or sports as well, there's like other societies. I think there's a baking society. Like, there's so many different extracurriculars you can do, and just like, and then you can get involved as much or as little you want. So like, as you go like through the years, you can be on committees. We have a mentoring scheme here, which I'm involved with as well. So like, you can, like, when you're first years, you come in and like you get given a mentor, and I'm going to go help a load of first years settle in this year and just answer all their questions. But then like, I have time to spend with my friends. So I'd like go to the park. I went to the beach yesterday. And like, everything's so close by as well. Like, you've got the Brecon Beacons really close by. You've got the beaches, like you've got the city. It's just, there's a lot of things to like explore while you're here as well.
Yeah. Well, anyone else got other societies they've got involved in? Quinn?
Yeah, well, from pretty early first year, I became a committee on one of the societies. Sorry, and that, juggling that and all of the things I had to do with that and my physics degree wasn't difficult at all. If you can manage your time remotely, you have so much time, you wouldn't expect it, because everyone's like, it's a physics degree, you have to spend so much time on it. Even your lecturers are like, spend a lot of time cementing your knowledge, and honestly, you don't need to do that much. If you understand something, don't waste time like forcing that into your head. Spend that time either having an enjoyable life, because otherwise it gets so stressful if you're just spending all of your time on your degree, or use that time to try to work out the things that you don't quite understand. But you've got more than enough time. Summer first year, I was going out 3 times a week, which my bank account didn't appreciate. But you have the time, and don't worry about not having time. That's not something you really need to worry about. Just worry about getting your coursework in on time. It's the only thing. You have enough time to do it.
Yeah, so it's all about managing the time, as you say, for different things. So there's plenty of time. One thing we normally say, and I'd be interested to know whether people think this is generally accurate, is that there's something like, it's been a little bit different this year because of remote stuff, of course, but something like 16 to 18 hours of contact time, and then about that again in terms of either completing coursework or doing work outside. So it adds up to a kind of a full-time job, 9 till 5 equivalent. And I know that undergrads don't always work just between 9 and 5. It does bleed out into other times and get up late when you don't have lectures, and sometimes when you do have lectures, I imagine, and so on. Does anyone is that fair? Do you think that it's a full-time job, but that means that you've got the equivalent of evenings and weekends to enjoy life? I can see general nods. Alex, do you think that does that chime with your experience?
Yeah, roughly, although it depends obviously how much work you have at the time, because sometimes you might be able to get done quicker than 9 to 5 and you have full weekends off. Other times you have to do more than 9 to 5 and go into the weekends. So and obviously it changes module to module. Some are harder than others, and it's a bit different in the second semester of the first year, because obviously you got coding as well tacked on as an extra module, but you do get used to it over time.
Yeah, so it's about managing that time and juggling that time. As you say, it does wax and wane. Sam, was that a hand up or was that a?
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to add 9 till 5 is perhaps a little misleading, just because that makes me think of a job, and in a job you don't have much flexibility, and when you can do your work, you have to do it between 9 and 5. Whereas at university, if you have something on during the day, a society thing, or whether it's a separate thing, you have the flexibility to work around that. So if you have, stuff you want to do society or sports wise, that between the hours of 9 and 5, you can do your work after or earlier or at the weekend. So definitely, I'd say, in terms of hours, probably 9 till 5, the amount of content makes sense, but it has the added flexibility of you can fit that in around your own schedule. Just make sure to stay on top of it, I guess.
Yeah, final thought on this from Quinn.
It's just a really quick thing added on to Sam's. The libraries are open almost 24/7. I think they close at about 2 a.m. and open again at 6. So you have 4 hours to sleep. But yeah, you don't have to worry. I was nocturnal for most of last year, and I'd only wake up if something was necessary, if I got in trouble if I wasn't there. And 9 to 5, I did a little bit of actually doing it 9 till 5 with an hour lunch in the middle and everything. And the days that I did that, I had gone through all of my coursework within the first 2 days. Personally, I found 9 to 5, 5 days a week was a big overstatement. But if you're someone that rewrites your notes, that would take up a lot more time. But just getting the coursework done, give yourself 4 hours a module a week. If you're just trying to do the coursework, and you should be fine. That will get you through the year.
That's great advice there. Thank you very much on that. I hope that's been useful as a feel for that answer to that question. Right, we're at 2 o'clock, so we should finish. I wonder whether just final thought from everyone, if you can, on maybe something you're looking forward to next year. I know most of the audience are going into their first year, so or thinking of applying, so they've got another year of A-level coming up for most people, I imagine. But I thought what you're looking forward to in this coming year, Lucy.
It's so hard to pick one thing. Everything. I just don't want it to end. I've just loved every minute of it, and yeah, I'm excited to just hang out with my friends, enjoy my lectures, enjoy my societies while it still lasts before I have to leave.
Yeah, and I mean, Martina, it has ended for you. What are you looking forward to in this coming year, post degree?
Yeah, so actually I'm doing a little bit of like GCSE tutoring currently, possibly also A level if I find someone. But I actually found that going back to the very, very basics of physics has been so useful, knowing what I know after doing my degree. Like, so often I found like, I know so much about this, I want to make a whole presentation, but no, I have to stick to the specification. So it's going to be really fun doing more tutoring and going into that. And I have possibly a job with more sort of revision content creation for that sort of thing. So looking forward to that.
Ah, good stuff. Rob?
I think it might be, obviously, a very COVID specific one is being able to, just see people again. It's not probably going to really apply when you're hopefully coming to uni. Hopefully it's going to be a bit better. But uni specific is going to be the fourth year research project. That's just kind of stuff I really enjoy, is that more solo aspect of research, less taught stuff, more kind of figuring it out as you go. So yeah, that'd be for me.
Yeah, certainly something that evolves over the course of the degree. Sam?
I'm really looking forward to a fourth year module called Physics and Reality. And I'm not entirely sure what it's about, but it sounds really interesting. And the description made it sound really quite philosophical, and it just sounded really interesting and quite unique. So that's one module I'm particularly looking forward to.
We'll come to you for all the big questions when you've done that module then. What is physics? Alex, don't answer that question. Answer what you're looking forward to in the coming year.
I'm looking forward to the observational techniques modules. I've heard some positive things about it, especially here, and it'll be quite different as well. I'm looking forward to actually meeting people, because obviously didn't really have a chance to do that in the first year of COVID and everything. So obviously just meeting all my friends again that I actually did make. So
yeah, and we are certainly hoping that the plan is that face-to-face teaching, in-person face-to-face teaching will take place this year, complemented by online material, of course. So still some things you have to be a little bit careful about. Great, thank you. Bonnie?
I'm the same. I'm yes, aside from really looking forward to being in in-person lectures again, I'd say definitely the third year projects I'm about to start. I think I'm doing one about gravitational waves and working with some like real life data from LIGO, and I'm just so excited because it's like all that knowledge that I've learned in like the first 2 years, I can finally start applying it to something that'll make a difference to, like, the fields of physics and gravitational wave astronomy. I'm just really looking forward to it.
Excellent. And I think, unless I miss it, finally Quinn. Have we done? I think.
Yeah, I'm also looking forward to my third year project. I'm doing something on dark matter, which is something I've been excited about since I would have been about 8. So finally actually managing to do research on dark matter, I've been excited about that since I read it in the project booklet about 4 months ago. So I'm really excited about that, and also just being able to see people and hopefully going into an actual science lab again, because it's been a year and a half and I miss laboratories.
Okay, I think we've heard from everyone, unless I've missed something. There are only 7 people to keep track of. Yeah, there are only 7 people.
You got me, Chris.
Great. Okay, thank you very much, everyone, and thank you to the. I'm looking at the list of you here. That doesn't help. I should look at you. Thank you to the attendees who've come along and asked those questions. They've been fabulous questions. We always come along prepared with questions that we thought people might want answered, but we've not really had to do that because you've all asked some fascinating and really useful questions. And thank you so much to Lucy, Rob, Quinn, Bonnie, Alex, Sam, and Martina for their insightful answers to those questions. I hope that's been useful. If you have any more questions, then get in touch with us at physics-admissions@cardiff.ac.uk. I will quickly type that into the chat so everyone can see it. I can't talk and type at the same time. I can't multitask like that. Thank you very much to everyone who's come. And as I say, ask us any questions if you've got any more via email. And fingers crossed, we look forward to seeing some of you in just over a year's time. And for the 7 of you on screen, very much looking forward to seeing you again in just over a week's time. Okay, thank you very much all. Bye-bye.